we will see how they all manage to deal with this first part of qualifying.
I think all eyes are going to be on Westbrook, obviously, as they sit at the top of the championship standings. And I think Sarah's going to be one to watch. Both her and her counterpart, Lucas, have been very close, but there are some other kind of sleepers in this group. You know, Team Sierra was looking very good in practice yesterday, but, you know, practice is one thing. There's some teams that like to kind of hold out before they get into qualifying, not show their hand. So I think this group is really going to set the tone for the day.
Yeah, it's good to see which of the pilots. And just to remind you, Blue Rising, championed by Timona Virat Kohli. Sierra, backed up by Carl Kuzma and Timo Courtois. I think we've got Carl Kuzma here, actually, this weekend. So that's going to be fun to see. Miami backed up by Mark Anthony and as well. So that is fun to see. And Aoki by Steve Aoki. And everybody just getting ready to head out for this first run. Of course, they have actually been doing some practice sessions already yesterday, but it's when we get into qualifying it really counts, because as we go through today, there is an opportunity to score a few points at the end of it, isn't there? Because the fastest qualifier by the end of today will score 3 points.
Absolutely. This is really critical, not only for that qualifying point, but it's also really valuable testing. Every single time the race bird gets on the water, it's an opportunity for teams to try and sort out their settings, sort out which propeller they want to use on race day. And yesterday, what we saw was some very rough water conditions. We saw race birds in the air, and by in the air, I mean out of the water. And when you're out of the water, you can lose a lot of speed. So coming out of yesterday, we saw some really interesting really interesting span of lap times from the teams. We saw some teams that were very fast and had an interesting gap where they had a very fast lap and then they had a very slow lap. So I'm curious to see if the water conditions today are going to change any of that up.
Okay, well, we will learn as they get out there, no doubt about it. This is year 3 of E1 race boats with the electric power, and of course they are all fully charged going into this, and they'll get a chance just to see where they can use that power to an effective way, won't they? We're just about to see this session get underway, as you say, and we will see each of these going out for a lap. Normally they don't all go out together because you want a bit of clear run, don't you?
Absolutely. The smoother the water is, the more likely you're going to get a fast, clean lap. So there's an advantage in getting out there first. So clearly we got Timmy Hansen out in front right now. He's trying to go for that advantage. Their times were not the best in practice yesterday, so I'm sure they're hoping to turn it around now.
Absolutely. So for Team Miami, they are currently a bit far down in the points. They're down in 9th place on 26 points at this stage. They were 7th in Jeddah, only 9th at Lake Como, and they were 6th at Dubrovnik. So let's just see if they actually had a problem in the second final, the main final, unfortunately, didn't they?
Yeah, unfortunately, they actually they submarined the boat pretty hard going into the final in Croatia, which means that the nose of the boat actually went underneath the water. And the noses on these race birds are actually designed to come off for transport. And when Timmy Hansen submarined the boat, it actually broke the nose cone off of the boat. And due to safety reasons, they're not allowed to progress through the race when that happens. So while they made it to the final and got some points, they didn't get the opportunity to go further than that. So unfortunate for their team. As it stands right now, they're not looking terrible as they come around the track right now. It did look like on that long straightaway that the race bird was really getting into those rollers, so I do think there's some pretty big rollers on the track here today.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be interesting to see how Timmy Hansen deals with it. Very experienced, of course, Timmy, isn't he, in the world of E1. So what he can gain out of this is always going to be important. And we see Sarah Mziavazi is also out there now as well. Obviously, you don't want to be right next to another boat, but you've got to get out there when you get a chance.
As far as timing goes, typically you want any race bird that's on the track to kind of be on the opposite side of the track so you're not getting into their wash. So you could tell Sarah waited, took her time, and now she has some cleaner water than she would have if she took off directly behind Timmy. So that allows her to kind of stay out of the turbulence. The Monaco waters are already really rough, so you don't need to make it any more difficult by getting in behind the turbulence of another race bird.
So there is Sarah Mziavaz out with Team Aoki at the moment. They won at Jeddah early at the beginning of the year. Dubrovnik did not go well for them, so that hurt them a little bit. They're 4th in the championship.
There's been some rumblings from their pilots that they may be having some issues with their race bird. It's not 100% certain what's going on with that team. Yesterday, I know that they actually missed one of the practice sessions because they were working on the boat. So hopefully they got things fixed. It sounded like they were feeling a little bit more positive. And so far, she has laid down a faster lap than Timmy Hansen. And I think that they're going to be going even faster as the session progresses.
Yeah, so 118.4 she's just done compared to the 119.2 that Timmy Hansen had just done. So we are beginning to see some changes, but it's always going to be a little bit difficult. Now, Machel Alobedan for Team Blue Rising, she's now out and immediately looking as though she's doing it fairly quickly.
You can tell just from this onboard cam here with Michelle that it's very rough through this section. It seems like on the far side of the track we have some parallel rollers, and then on the shore side we have some rollers that they're headed straight into. So those rollers that they're headed straight into can really upset the boat and slow the pilots down. So the settings are going to be really critical. It looked like Michelle was riding very high on the settings. So I'm curious to see if that's a strategic decision or if that's just a result of those rough waters.
They've had ups and downs this year. They were second at Lake Como, but they were a bit out of it in both Jeddah and Dubrovnik. But Monaco's worked well for them. They've won as a team. Team Blue Rising won here at Monaco last year. So it must be nice in a way for them to come back to a track, for the whole team, for engineers and everybody, to come back to a track or a circuit where they actually have had victory in the past.
Absolutely. It's an exciting feeling, but it's also some added pressure knowing that you've won there in the past. So I'm hoping that they can pull something big out of the bag, especially after struggling last round. So we'll see. Sarah Price is taking to the track right now. Overall, we're seeing slower lap times than they'd had in practice yesterday. So I'm excited to see what Westbrook's going to lay down, as they were our fastest lap times in the practice sessions yesterday.
Well, Westbrook are doing such a fantastic job at the moment, as we know, leading the championship, having back-to-back victories. So it will be very interesting to see immediately what sort of pace Sarah Price does here.
Looking at their race bird on this stretch here, you could tell that Sarah's riding a lot lower on the settings than some of the other pilots have been on these last couple laps. So I'm curious to see if that's going to be a faster strategy or a slower strategy. But in theory, what that does, it keeps the race bird a little bit lower. So when you're coming off the foil, you don't have as far to fall. And that basically keeps your momentum up. So we'll see how that does.
That's really interesting, because the technical side of how high you up on that foil, that can make such a difference, can't it, throughout the whole weekend, both in qualifying and in the race. It can be different sometimes.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with really rough water conditions like this.
Yeah.
Regardless of the settings, the race bird is still going to be kind of pushed around by these waves. And if you're running a little bit lower of a setting, you're less likely to have those really hard slams like that.
Yeah.
And so you can tell they're just riding a little bit lower, and that may help them keep their momentum up versus some of the other teams that we saw just go. I mean, Michelle was way up on the settings, and she spent a lot of time falling off the foil, and you can see that really hurt her lap time. So let's see what Sarah pulls out right now.
It's fun actually hearing the sound from inside as well. We could hear just then as she was going up and down. So the time, yeah, actually she loses out definitely towards the end there, because that's actually the slowest time so far. 1:22.0 compared to 1:18.4, which was set by Sarah Vaz for Aoki at the moment. But it does help you sometimes to get out early, because it can get more bumpy with more boats having gone round.
Absolutely, Ben. So we'll see this again. I think this is not necessarily a pilot or a boat issue. I think this is just the fact that the wave conditions are probably different than they were yesterday. So based on the lap times that we were seeing yesterday, we were seeing like 110s, 112s, 113s. The margin being so much higher, I think that that's just a result of the conditions. And you can see from this high view, you can see those rollers, and usually when you can see them on the camera, that means they're very big in real life in front of the pilots. So I think that hopefully the conditions are going to clear up as we progress through qualifying, but based on my experience in Monaco, they're probably going to get worse throughout the day.
That's a good point. Yeah, let's wait and see. We're watching Sierra now, new to this E1 in 2026, but obviously competing in the other events that we've had so far. Their best result so far has been 5th actually at the opening round at Jeddah, 120.4, so that has put Katie Munnings into 3rd place. So all 5 of this group have now set a time, and it's Aoki with Sarah Vaz who's set the pace initially, 1:18.4. Timmy Hansen for Miami, 2nd fastest for the 1:19.2. Now Katie there with Sierra has just gone 3rd, 1:20.4. Machel Alobedan for Team Blue Rising, 1:21.3. And Sarah Price with Westbrook, funnily enough, with the team that's doing so well, actually the slowest, 1:22.0.
Typically the first lap I like to consider almost like a sight lap. So you're going out, you haven't been in the boat at all today. It's a fresh day. The settings from yesterday are almost irrelevant. This first lap is really the opportunity to get a feel for what the race bird needs today in these conditions. So I imagine that we're going to see some faster times as the session progresses. So we'll see what happens.
So Timmy Hansen's heading back out once again for Team Miami. He's currently second fastest, the 33-year-old Swedish competitor, and he's been competing in E1 now for a while. He's had 1 victory and 4 podiums in his career. A man who was very much into his rallycross championship battles and winning the Rallycross Championship back in 2019. One of the great things here about competing in E1, like yourself, Anna, you've been a competitor in E1. They come from different forms of sport, don't they? Whether it's racing boats or racing cars or rallying, there is a real mixture. And then trying to get it all together when you're on these electric race boats.
It's been very cool to see the evolution of the E1 series. You know, we have such an interesting cast of pilots here from all different kinds of backgrounds, but I think the biggest thing is that at the end of the day, the racing is racing, and even though it's water, you know, lines and strategy and discussing with an engineer and making changes, you know, that is universal in all racing languages. But water is the biggest thing is that water is so much different than any other racetrack. It's constantly changing, you know, even in very short distances, minute by minute. You know, it introduces a lot of different variables, and that requires a ton of intuition. And a lot of the pilots coming in from other backgrounds sometimes take a little bit to kind of figure out how to adapt to the water. So we do see some of our leaders coming from water sports backgrounds just because they're more used to being in the water and anticipating what's going on in front of them.
So that was a 118.8, so just a tiny bit off the fastest time that has been set, and that looked quite smooth to me. He wasn't bashing quite as much on that one.
There was a little bit of porpoising on the start straight where those big rollers were, so you know, if they were able to clean that up, that may shave some time down. You can see from this angle here the big rollers that are moving across the racetrack right now, and a couple little slams like that can actually go quite a long way in adding to your lap time. So I think it's all about timing conditions at this point.
So let's see how Team Westbrook get on this one, because they are doing so well, and Sarah Price is going out for her second run in this particular stage. Multiple Dakar stage wins she's had, and multiple wins in E1 as well. Now, we saw her just dipping down a bit too much on that last run. Let's see if this is a bit smoother.
She really had a good momentum coming across the start-finish line, but then, like you said, she had kind of a slam there, and it's like hitting the brakes when you don't want to be hitting the brakes, so that can really slow you down. But I imagine after that slower first lap, she went into the cool-down area, spoke with her team, and probably made some adjustments to the setting, so we'll see if they have any improvement here. But you can see the nose kind of moving around, dipping a lot, and that is all coming from those wave conditions that we've been talking about.
She's very much on the pace at the moment. Tell us about the boost and how you're using the boost around it at this kind of place.
Boost strategy is critical, and it's kind of a freestyle effort, and right now they're probably still trying to figure out exactly where they want to be using the boost. Typically the boost is best used to kind of pull the race bird up out of the water. It's literally a little boost of power. So if the race bird gets a lot of drag on it, it slows down, but the boost gives you the opportunity to kind of power through that. So we see a lot of teams applying it. There we go, much better. That's what we were expecting. They just shaved like 4 seconds off their lap time. I'm sure Westbrook is really happy with that run right now.
Yes, Sarah, well done. 1:17.49 puts us in P1.
Good effort. That we could just hear from the team telling her that she's done a great job, and that really is impressive. 1:17.4. So Westbrook going from the bottom to the top for now. Of course, this might all change. We've got the second group coming out fairly soon as well, and now we're keeping an eye on Michelle Alabadan, and she's close. Let's just see. She's just a tiny bit off at the moment. Riding on board with her.
Like I said earlier, the first lap is almost like a sight lap. It's not a throwaway, but you know, you're gonna see the progression as they go through the laps, and we saw that from Westbrook, where they had a lap that had us kind of a little concerned in their first lap, and then they moved up quite a bit. It looks like Michelle might still be struggling a little bit. It does seem like it was a little faster than her first lap, but you could tell the waves were really taking a hold of that race bird. She had a couple good slams there. You could see her kind of aggressive on the steering, trying to keep the boat where she wanted it. So hopefully they have enough time to spin one more lap.
Absolutely, yeah, and they had a really good second place at Lake Como earlier this year, and they had qualified down in 10th for that one, funnily enough, but they had a really good overall result. So it's actually, we're looking at the times now, looking much closer not surprisingly. I mean, we're used to these teams being very, very tight to each other. So Westbrook on 117.49, Aoki just under a second below, and Miami 1.3 seconds behind, 1.6 seconds behind for Team Blue Rising, and the Sierra team, yes, a little bit lower off at the moment. Let's see how Sara Mziavaz gets on now with Team Aoki.
In theory, the design of the E1 series is that all of the race birds are very close to the same. So there's not really a lot of opportunities to modify the engines or do anything that allows a team to have a vast advantage over the other team. So when you see the times very close together, that means that we're looking at a really good day, and where they're going to make up the time is in these very little moments. You know, it's falling off the foil, it's taking a slightly different line, and that's where all that strategy comes into play. So it makes the racing very exciting, because very rarely do we have a team that's just miles and miles ahead, and we're just, you know, watching it go by. So it makes for very tight, interesting racing.
She's doing a good job here, though. She's just done two very good sectors, and there is a chance that she's going to go quicker than anybody else so far. Not by a miles, but it is a 117.4 that we're looking to beat at the moment, which Team Westbrook have done. Let's just see. This is going to, I think this is going to be quicker as she goes. Yeah, 116.0. So that has set the new pace.
She had a really good final corner there. She kept the boat from getting too wet, which creates a lot of drag. So she was able to really slingshot out of that exit compared to some of the other teams who have gotten their wing a little bit too wet in those corners. You can actually see comparatively Katie Munnings running through the opposite corner right now. The wing actually kind of dropped in just like that, where that whole side of the boat is getting very wet. That causes a lot of drag. Sarah Masseur was able to keep it pretty flat and keep it dry, which equates to a lot more speed.
Katie Munnings now, the New Zealand pilot. She's trying to get in another lap at the moment. That first sector just a little bit off the best so far, and as you can see, she's struggling a little bit to keep it nice and smooth, but actually pace-wise it's going quite well at this stage. Not the fastest, but going quite well.
That angle was a really good example of the issues with drag. You know, she had a good momentum there, but as the boat kind of dips down, you see the belly get wet, and you can see the boat slow down pretty dramatically. You know, there's no brakes on boats, so the only thing really slowing them down is that drag. So to keep the boat as dry as possible without going too high is really how you win here at E1.
Katie Munnings is just trying to, get this sorted. That is a 118.8, so that puts her in 4th place at this stage. And it means that Michelle Alabedan is at the bottom at the moment on 119.096. But that is interesting to see how that group has gone. And Sarah Price for Westbrook there, 2nd fastest, 117.495. But it was Sara Mziavaz for Aoki who has set the outright pace so far.
Sarah definitely looking happy as she climbed out of that race bird. I'm curious to see what Lucas can do later. I think out of all the teams, Westbrook has been the most consistent. You know, typically when you have these kind of dual pilot teams, there's one pilot that's kind of the clear standout, the unnamed leader, where they have a much faster pace. And Westbrook is one of the only teams where they're very close, sometimes down to the quarter of a second. So I'm excited to see if Lucas is going to be able to match that pace or go faster, and it kind of helps the two of them get even better throughout the weekend.
What are the teams doing here? Just washing, cleaning the boats when they come back in? Is this a standard sort of routine?
It kind of depends on the team. You know, sometimes it's a matter of just keeping things clean. You know, the biggest things that they do when they come in, especially here in Monaco when it's so hot, a lot of the teams have systems to try and keep the boat cool. Don't see it here, but, you know, if you look over by Brady's boat, they have what looks to be a leaf blower, and what they're using that for is to try and keep things cool. So you may see some of that throughout the weekend, but here with Westbrook, you can see the mechanic is getting ready to take the rear hatch off to get that boat charged up for the next session.
Right, well, let's see how this all goes as we go through this session and into the next one. And for Team Blue Rising as well, of course, they've ended up a little bit further down the list.
Hi, Katie, it's Jet Girl here in the TV booth. Can you tell me a little bit about how the conditions are looking out there today?
Hello. Yeah, it's pretty rough. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. I think we have something just mechanical, so I need to check now in the last corner. But yeah, it's kind of rougher, a lot more rollers than yesterday. Those big waves, and yeah, it's quite hard to navigate around them. To try to find a good clear spot of water. So yeah, we'll see what Eric can do, and yeah, hopefully all will be good.
All right, keep your head up. You guys are looking pretty good, and hopefully you can clean up that lap time.
Well, great to be able to communicate, and it's lovely, Anna, that you know so many of these, having raced against them, competed against them, and kept in touch with them. And it seems to me that it is a very competitive world, but it's also one that everyone respects everybody else, and you all know what you have to do, and you can't always deliver because it depends on the day and what's going on.
Not to make a bad joke here, but we are all literally in the same boat when it came to E1 series. You know, this series did not exist prior to the first round, and we all kind of had to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will check it out and see how it goes in the next stage of practice. Qualifying as such, because we get various different stages of qualifying. So what effectively they are going to do in these first stages is look at what both pilots do for a team, add their best times together, separate, and then just divide by 2 to give you the fastest overall times done by both pilots. So we will see how that all comes along in just a little bit. It's a chance for us to catch up down there as well. Let's go and join Taylor Snyder.
Yep, we're playing. I'm telling you, it's Tetris. Down here with Sarah Masirvaz, what a run that was. This is obviously just the start of kind of the whole weekend, getting the nerves out, getting the boat feeling good. But yesterday you guys were having a little bit of issues. It seemed to have worked itself out today.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was a tough day. We missed one practice session, so Danny and I only got one go in the boat, and Danny was struggling because we had to change a complete part inside the tower in the rear. So put our heads down, took the data, and went out there and did the best we could. So far, it looks good. Now we have the next group going out, so it's just a matter of regrouping with Danny, telling him what I felt, and he's up next.
We have no doubt that Danny will go in there and put down an absolutely stellar lap. But what is it like working with Danny with Aoki Racing?
Oh, it's amazing. It's like a family. You know, Danny's been great. He has loads of experience, even in racing from, F1 history. So he's been really great to work with. And, we've had a good bond so far as teammates, so I'm quite happy with it.
Lovely. Thanks for chatting with me.
Thank you, guys.
Well, it's definitely a good start, and we will see how it develops. Of course, there's a long way to go over the course of these sessions, but Team Aoki setting the pace in that first part of qualifying, and some great images as well. Some of the other boats that are heading out there, rather different to our E1 race boats.
Yes, absolutely. A little bit bigger, I think, than our race birds here, but they do provide some interesting challenges on the water conditions.
One of the things about Monaco, you see amazing stuff waiting here. So here you are, Q1 Session 1A. It is Aoki that have set the pace with that 1:16.04. Westbrook second, Miami in third, Sierra in fourth, and T Blue Rising, which has gone well here at Monaco in the past, on a 1:19.09. But it's all unpredictable at this stage because all the teams are working, developing, getting their pilots to work out what to do next, and we shall see how it goes. Let's take a little look back at them going around just a moment ago.
When does it start? Is it like qualification?
So that was the first part of qualifying here at Monaco, as we are enjoying the fourth round of the UIM E1 World Championship presented by PIF, and we are back in a few minutes. Thank you. So here we are at Monaco, building up for the fourth round of the UIM E1 World Championship presented by PIF. And Monaco is the place that now E1 is coming for 3 years in a row. Alongside me is Anna Glennon, who raced here in both 2024 and in 2025. And what we're going to see now, Anna, is the second batch of boats about to come out, because we've had the first batch of 5. It's the second batch of 5 to make our full 10, give us the initial times.
Yeah, we're getting ready to look at the other half of the grid going right now, and I think the biggest story coming out of practice is that Team Rafa is looking a lot better than they have earlier this year.
Well, let's take a look at the teams that we've got involved in this. We have a Team Rafa involved, backed by Rafa Nadal, of course, and it's Chris Ladraga who will be the pilot for this one. Michael Wilkinson will be out for Drogba, backed by Didier Drogba. Sam Coleman for Team Brady, always very, very competitive. Tom Brady, the team owner there. Rusty Wyatt for Alula. LeBron James will be keeping an eye on that. And Open Duncan for Team Monaco, and that's going to be very interesting to see how Team Monaco get on. It is their first season in E1.
I'm sure there's a little bit of added pressure as they come into their home race, but there's also a lot of excitement. They've really been building momentum this season, so it would be incredible to see them do well here at their home race in Monaco.
So Team Brady that you're looking at there with that lovely livery, the gold and black livery, that is the two-time champion team in E1, of course. And although they haven't actually taken an outright victory this year, they're definitely playing the game to try and win the championship, aren't they?
This is the team that everybody worries about, and when they struggle in qualifying, I know that a lot of the other teams get a little bit excited thinking that they may be off the board for the weekend, and that simply hasn't been the case. They've struggled a little bit in qualifying this year, but they've stayed consistently in the top 5 throughout the season, on the podium, so you cannot count these guys out.
Absolutely, and the famous American football quarterback, NFL, Tom Brady, who is the team owner of this one, they have done so well. Emma Kymäläinen is very competitive as well, along with Sam Coleman. They work together extremely well. I was just looking there at Sam, looking very relaxed as ever as he's about to go out for his first qualifying run.
They're easily one of the most cutthroat teams on the grid. You know, Tom Brady is saying, go for it, take them out. And the two of them can be quite vicious on the track, but they're definitely some of the nicest people in the paddock. So you really never know what to expect from them, but you can for sure know that they are not going to lift if things get tight.
And there it is, lovely to see the Team Monaco livery, of course, because for Monaco joining into E1 in 2026, and we have Oban Duncan and Max Noche both competing, and they, as a combination, they are the youngest pilot combination, and they're learning, they're getting better and better. They were 9th at Jeddah, 6th at Lake Como, and 5th at Dubrovnik. So can they move up even more here?
I think so. With Oban's background on this new team, it gave them a pretty strong foundation coming into the season, and we've seen them move up the ranks. They've been fast in qualifying. They've just had a little bit of bad luck here and there. So I think there's going to be a moment where they pull everything together, and they're going to be tough to beat.
So it's Sam Coleman for Team Brady who's going out for that initial run. The British competitor who has competed in powerboat racing for many, many times. He was a motocross rider in his early days, but a multiple champion in powerboat racing. And then, of course, in E1, the race boats, he is twice champion with that team. Now, let's just keep an eye on how it's looking. Going fine at this initial stage.
Sam's also one of the most adaptive racers on the grid because he was one of the pilots originally that was helping develop the Racebird. So in the kind of prototype stages of the Racebird, Sam was one of the pilots. So if anybody can kind of figure out what the Racebird needs, it's going to be Sam Coleman. And you could see right there, a lot like we saw in the first laps in the previous session, Sam was definitely out on a little bit of a rodeo ride there as he was coming into those rollers. That particular smart mark on the track is kind of where the waves shift from being parallel to going straight into them, and we can see that the pilots have been struggling with that today.
Absolutely, you're riding on board, and this gives you a really good view then of just how bouncy it is. At the moment, the sector times are not dissimilar to what we saw from the first group. It's a little bit slower. It's showing fastest at the moment, understandably, because that's just for this sector, for this session. But in comparing, it's still up there because a 1:18.3, that's not the fastest of the day, but that's a very good opening run, isn't it?
It's a very good start, you know, especially like I said, that's almost like a sight lap. Sam's not been on the track today, so to start off pretty strong like that, it's a great sign for that team. They have an opportunity to make it even faster in the next lap.
New Zealander Michael Wilkinson out for Team Dropper at the moment, and they are currently a bit far down in the championship. They've had a bit of a tough time so far.
Micah's a really interesting case. You know, he gets out in the Racebird, and it looks like a rodeo. It looks like that Racebird is all over the place, and he consistently lays down some very fast lap times. So apparently he's got it all under control, and we can see that right now.
That's brilliant. He's done a 1:16.9, which is just a fraction slower than what we had in the first session. So that is very, very impressive. And let's hope that they do get it together because they're down in 10th place in the series. But as you say, sometimes they put together some very rapid laps. We've seen that before.
I think Drogba has been struggling a little bit this season as they do have a new female pilot that is completely new to the series. So it takes a little bit of time to kind of get grips on things. And so I think that's what we've been seeing, where Micah's been very strong and he's kind of helping Tara Pacheco kind of get to grips with the racing. And I think once they figure out that dynamic, that they'll do quite a bit better. But so far, Micah has definitely been laying down some fast laps and has been the fast pilot on Team Drogba.
So now you're watching Team Alula with Rusty Wyatt behind the wheel, and they are doing well in the series. They're third in the series at the moment on 70 points. They've had 2 podium finishes, third in Jeddah, third in Dubrovnik. They were 4th at Lake Como, but still scored useful points. So they are very much in the battle at the moment. And as I say, it's Rusty Wyatt who's now going around. Let's see, 1:18.9. That's very similar to what we're seeing so far. Yes, it is Michael Wilkinson who's done a 1:16.9, but being in the 18s, that's sort of what a lot of them are doing at this stage.
It seems like we're seeing the lap times tighten up quite a bit, which is going to make for some great racing on race day, so really looking forward to that. It seems like for the most part everybody's pretty evenly matched, and my guess is that has a lot to do with the conditions. The conditions are really the great equalizer when it comes to watercraft racing, because you know, if somebody does have an advantage or they're better in these conditions or that conditions, when the water gets rough, it's an even playing field for everyone.
Chris Lazaraga, she's out for Team Rafa now, and the team running 6th in the series. Let's just ride on board and see how this comes together for them. The first sector, reasonable. Let's just see. I'm not sure they're going to be quite as competitive just yet as some of the others. Rafa, as I say, their best at the moment has been 4th overall in Dubrovnik this year.
They definitely have been on a slow claw back from the top. You know, last season we saw them be so competitive. Every team in the paddock was worried that this was going to be the team to beat. And then unfortunately here last year, they had a huge crash that unfortunately retired their particular race bird. And then from there, it was very difficult for them to kind of get the settings back, get the handling back. And we've seen that they're still trying to figure things out. But Dubrovnik, last time around, was really the first time we've kind of seen a flash of the old Team Rafa. Tom Schiap single-handedly carried that team to the final and did much better than they have in the past. So we're hoping to see a break for those guys. They've had some very bad luck, and it could be really discouraging. But after speaking with Rafa several times, you know, having a sport background, he definitely believes in his team, and I think they have a little bit of alleviated pressure from having an understanding team owner.
Okay, well, I hope so, because that actually wasn't particularly quick, but you can never tell on the first lap. We're with Team Monaco now, Oban Duncan, and she has put together some very good laps throughout the course of this year. 1:18.2, yeah, that's a good one, isn't it, to start off with?
Yeah, she had a really good run to the finish line there. Like I said, that final turn can be very rough, and if you get the boat too wet, it really drags you down headed to the finish line.
It just feels like the boat is not even lifted up enough.
So it sounds like Oban might be complaining that the lift settings are not doing what she wants them to be doing. So that could be a couple different things. You know, either she's complaining about the actual lift, which is moving the engine up and down, or she's complaining about the trim. Maybe the settings aren't being as reactive as she wants. So it could be that they're having a technical problem, or it could just be the sensation of how the boat is handling in the waves. It just doesn't feel like it's doing what she wants. So despite that, she had a pretty good time considering it was her first lap. Like I said earlier, that final turn charge was looking very good. The boat was very flat, very level, and I think it really contributed to a great lap time.
You can see her professionalism in the way she's responding straight away to the team as well. You know, she's the youngest out there, but she's been competing since 2024. She knows, and she's immediately able to return back to the team and say, right, this is what's happening, this is what I need. I think that's very impressive. So we're back with the Alula team now with Rusty Wyatt. See if they can improve a little bit on what they've done so far.
It's interesting. Rusty was very quick to turn around and do a second lap. He didn't spend too much time cooling off, and I'm curious if that was a decision related to the conditions. You know, is there someone in mission control saying now's the time, or did Rusty just want to get it out of the way?
Absolutely. Well, let's see how this one does go. Decent first sector, actually, 22.4 seconds. So that puts him right up there with what we've got so far. You're looking at the Q1 standings on our screen, and of course we're sort of mixing the group from earlier to this group now, going out at slightly different times, but mainly it's the same sort of results that we will tend to get out of it. Second sector not quite so quick as some that we have had. So the fastest in the second sector in this group at the moment, 26.5, he's done 27.9.
I think out of all the racebirds I've seen in this session, I think Rusty's done a really good job of maintaining his momentum and keeping the boat very dry. You can see that in Sector 1. Sector 2 is kind of difficult because there's a shift in the waves that's really disturbing a lot of the racebirds, but Rusty seems to have pretty good momentum compared to earlier.
Yeah, Rusty's never had a win in E1 yet, but he's had podiums, and you're riding on board, and the team. You can look at the... I always quite enjoy these views from the team as they're studying everything, trying to work out what's going on, both visually and technically, all the same time.
Absolutely. Unlike a lot of other watercraft sports, E1 has so much technology around it. Like every foot, every inch, every single setting on that racebird is recorded. So, you know, if the pilot even so much as slightly lifts, the team is going to know about it. And there's not really any other watercraft, boat racing, jet ski racing, anywhere that has that level of technology. So the teams can really use that to their advantage to try and improve their lap times. So those engineers are really critical. If you have a good engineer, a good person on the radio, you can really, really make a big difference.
And in this particular group, he's gone second fastest, Rusty Wyatt, for Alula. In the overall, if you put them two together, as we are doing, as you can see, that puts him fourth overall. So that's still decent. I mean, that's a decent pace. And as we've seen in the past, we've seen some of the best, fastest in qualifying on a one day, then doesn't always work on the race day. But it is fun. There are points on offer at the end of today. 3 points for the fastest qualifier, 2 points for second fastest, 1 point for third, and the fourth fastest sadly will miss out just on any points. But it's tomorrow when they go racing when the big points are really on offer.
Also unique to E1 is, Micah is racing right now for his qualifying lap, and he's very fast, but later his co-pilot has to come out and try and match his pace, and
yes,
there's a lot of pressure to try and take the information that the first pilot has in their qualifying session and try and duplicate it or make it better and improve in the second session. So you may be having the best day ever, but if your co-pilot is having a bad day, it drags the whole team down. So there's a lot of added pressure there, unlike other motorsport where it's all kind of, the blame's all on one pilot. So having the duo pilot really makes this unique.
You're absolutely right, because this first part of qualifying is very important. The two pilots, their fastest times are put together to work out. When we get into the qualifying later, though, it's slightly different. It then goes by a pilot in one session to another pilot in another session to move on. But this session, as you say, absolutely, they've got to work together, and both pilots must deliver a quick lap so that it gets them through to the next stage.
A big one for Micah there. He almost stuffed the wing in, but thankfully, because he had some momentum, the boat kind of popped back up out of the water. That could have really slowed him down, but it looks like he managed to power through it.
Absolutely. So let's see how this goes for Team Drogba. This does look quite promising to be a rapid time. Is it going to be the fastest? Yeah, 1:15. We're the first one into the 1:15s, 1:15.56.
Like I said, Micah has this crazy driving style where it looks like he's almost out of control, and he's still going very fast. We saw him kind of stuff the wing down in there, and I thought that was it. I thought he had ruined his lap, and here he is at the top of the bracket.
So Chris Lazaraga is now having another go to see whether Team Rafa can move up the order even more. They are down at the bottom in this particular group and bottom overall at this stage. So this is an important one. They need to show that they can find a bit more pace here. Let's watch. We're on board.
It looked like through the rollers there that Christina and the Racebird were kind of tipping side to side, which could be the rollers, it could be the settings, but this does look a lot better than their lap earlier.
It does. Let's see. Is it in the 18s as she comes across the line? Not quite. So just losing out a little bit there. Still not the quickest. 1:21.1. So they are still struggling a bit, aren't they?
It looked like the line choice was there, but it just seemed like the Racebird was moving around a lot more than they would probably want it to. So I'm curious to see if they look at some of the settings and come back with Tom Schiap later and pull out a faster lap.
Absolutely. The research that goes on by the teams at this stage is always so important. This can then take them through to another level, maybe not today in qualifying, but certainly going into racing tomorrow, and we've seen that plenty of times before. Wonderful day at Monaco to enjoy the qualifying sessions that are going on at this stage. Now, what we will be seeing shortly, as you said, is the teams coming back out with the other pilots. All the first set of teams will be coming out very soon, and it will be their other pilots who will now be learning to come out, see what they can do. And then this group of pilots that you can see at the moment, they'll be swapping over to their other pilots. They just need to finish off this session now.
The bracket may be looking nice and tidy right now, but with the second sessions coming out, it could literally get turned completely upside down if those second pilots go faster. So it's not to say that this doesn't count, but it could completely change later this afternoon.
They've still got 2 minutes left in this session, so there is time, as you can see, for Open Duncan to try and put another one together. She's currently third fastest in this group, fifth fastest in the overall settings at this stage, and so far so good, not bouncing too much.
She had a little bit of bounce on that front stretch there, but you can see that it maintained the momentum, which means the settings are probably right in the sweet spot. She's keeping the nose up in the corner, which is really critical, and you can see that as she had a fast sector one. This is probably the trickiest sector that we've seen. You can see the rollers are now coming straight at the Racebird, and then you have to make this kind of awkward right-handed turn there, and you can see that it upset the boat just a little bit, but she's maintaining the momentum, so she might still be able to make this work.
So coming into the final sector here, that you need to do this sort of three-way turn. That's what she's coming into. Second sector, yes, the sector's looking fairly promising at this stage, particularly that first sector. Let's just see into this three-way round to the finish area.
She kept the boat pretty dry until that last corner. You could see it got pretty wet. You saw the splash on the camera, but she maintained the momentum, and that's looking really good.
Oh, that's very good. 1:14.898. So that has gone fastest for Team Monaco. And at Monaco, of course, this means a huge amount to them. Early days, and she will be handing that over, of course, in just a short space. Now, Team Brady, obviously, they are one to always keep an eye on here. And at the moment, it's Sam Coleman. So let's see how this second run goes.
You can see, like I mentioned earlier, they're headed straight into the waves on that opposite side of the track, and Sam was just kind of dipping down into them, which clearly slowed him down quite a bit. It just really, it's like hitting the brakes when you don't want to be. So, you know, this may be a tough one for Team Brady, but we've seen them come back in the past. They're never to be counted out. And also, consistently, Emma is usually the faster qualifier. So they may take this data from Sam and come back and have a flying lap from Emma later on.
That's very true. Well, that's a 1:17.9. So in this group, that's put Sam Coleman third for Team Brady. In the overall running, that's put him in 5th place. And as you say, it'll be Emma Kimiläinen who will be doing the next run in this machine, in the Team Brady boat. So we will see. And as you say, she's always very, very competitive, very rapid indeed. For Monaco, after Oban Duncan's done that really good run to set the outright pace at a 1:14.89, she'll be handing over to Max Noche for the other run, and Max will also be impressive too. So that will then give us, once they've done their second runs with the other pilots, we will then get the overall of who has set the outright pace and who has not managed to really show any sort of pace today. Qualifying all important, and we've always got chances as well to have little experiences, little chats with people. As for Team Rafa, that is Chris Lazaraga just getting out for now, and it will be Tom Schaap who will be taking over for the second run for Team Rafa. They are struggling at the moment. I do hope that they can make some changes, because she was quite a long way down on a 1:21.147, so Team Rafa right down at the bottom of the list at this stage. So that is something we will be watching for, but obviously it has been an interesting day for so many of them already, and they are trying to pick up and learn. You can see the amount of work that's going on from the teams as they try and make sure that they can make it even better going into the next stage of qualifying.
Hey Sam, it's Jet Girl and TV. Tell me a little bit about the track. Which section is giving you the most trouble? What do we need to look out for?
Hey, yeah, I think you'll probably see the start run, and timing the line right and getting a good run on the first start of the lap to set you up definitely sets the tone for the rest of the lap, keeps the boat speed and momentum high. So I think that last lap for us was an absolute disaster until exiting the final corner, which kind of saved it a little bit. So frustrating that it's so condition dependent, but you can see what it's like out here with the boat traffic and stuff. And yeah, we'll study the data and see if we can find some time for Emma.
All right, thanks Sam. We're looking forward to seeing what you guys do later today.
Very good to hear from Sam, and he's being very honest. And of course, you don't want to give away too much for the other teams to pick up on, do you?
Absolutely. You know, I love Sam and Emma, but they keep everything close to the chest. So I do think Sam was being pretty honest there. We can see from the cameras how rough it is out there, and which sections people seem to be struggling with. But if anybody's going to spread a little bit of misinformation to throw them off their tail, it's going to be Team Brady. They definitely are running strategy in all elements where they can. So curious to see if Emma Kimiläinen comes back with something faster. I'm sure that Sam was able to pull a lot of good data.
Oban Duncan's done a good job there as well. So we shall see Team Monaco. Of course, it's a lovely weekend for them, hopefully, but they've got to try and make it work for them. And she's had podiums at Monaco in the past, so in different team. So it'll be interesting to see how she gets on with the Team Monaco name.
Absolutely. There's some added pressure with the Monaco name there, but Oben is no stranger to doing well here in Monaco. She and I have actually had some of our own battles here in Monaco. I know we got into it pretty good last year or the year before, whenever it is. Oben is a very tough competitor, so she'll be fighting hard today.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay. Well, it's great to have your experience of competing around this layout here at Monaco. It is a wonderful venue, of course. So here we are. When you combine the results of the first pilot, but we will now see the second pilots coming out. It is Monaco on top. Fantastic. Well done to Team Monaco. Ahead of Drogba, Aoki in third, Westbrook, Brady, Alula, Miami and Sierra. But in the at-risk, we've got Blue Rising and Team Rafa. So their second pilots really have to deliver well to make sure they get through to the next stage of qualifying. And that is something we will be looking for as we look back at some of the highlights. So we are now preparing for the next stage in qualifying at the 4th round of the UIM E1 World Championship presented by PIF. And in this next group, we have Team Westbrook with Lucas Ordonez, who will be at the steering, Danny Kloss for Team Aoki, John Peters for Team Blue Rising, Eric Stark for Sierra, and for Miami we have Rihanna O'Meara Hunt. While so much goes on behind the scenes, Westbrook, the championship leaders in 2026, developing the boats, and we've got a chance to look back at Westbrook team's mission control in Dubrovnik with Matt Wright.
Here we go with Angola Westbrook Racing, the team to watch out for this weekend.
My name is Matthew Wright. I'm the race engineer for Westbrook Racing. Stand by for my countdown. My role is basically to cover strategy, performance, and managing the drivers from a performance perspective for the weekend. Go, 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 all yours.
This is where he's going to make it or break it, is coming around these corners here.
It's purple.
He's already set the pace. It's worth taking a few more risks now.
We've got a huge amount of data here in Mission Control. We've got the live data from the boat. We've got the race viewer so we can see the GPS of all the other boats going around. And that's really where we're looking. We're looking to see what the other boats are doing and how we can optimize ourselves based on that. It's really about taking the data we have and then finding improvements for them so we build throughout the weekend. Perfect example in quali is we started with a slightly slower lap, and then as we went through Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4, we built that time, found performance, and were able to deliver a stellar result.
Yeah, #1 at qualifying.
Another thrilling day awaits as teams battle once again.
In terms of a race from our perspective, a key aspect is the starts. We want to make sure that we're crossing the start line exactly on the green flag. If you're in front of all the other boats out of the choppy water, that's massive for our race.
Counting down 2, 1, 0.
The Westbrook boat is just handling the chop so well.
Well done, Sarah. Looks like you've got the inside line and you're in the lead currently by 1 boat length.
As we're going through the race, it's all about strategy, so trying to keep the cleanest water you possibly can.
Okay, so Brady are going to go normal this time, and we should get a nice empty patch of water.
Managing the drivers, trying to keep them informed, and then also managing the laps.
Rain for long.
Opposite Brady, let's go long, long, long.
So we're either taking long or short laps or race laps to try and keep ourselves out the wake of the other boats.
Keep pushing, you've got the best water on track, your lap times are looking solid.
It looks like they've judged the gap perfectly because Lucas is now taking control of this race.
Well done, mate, you've got the lead. 5 boat lengths, keep pushing, open track now. Great work, mate, great work. Currently P1. 27-second delta, no risks.
Yeah, no risks. And just look at the gap.
Take it home, dude. Take it home. Take it home.
Westbrook win to take maximum points.
2nd in a row. Fantastic work. Oh my God.
Heck yeah, Matt. Heck yeah, man. Good job, guys.
That's pretty much what we're doing here in Mission Control.
Well, it has been a tremendous season so far for the Westbrook team, leading the championship on 101 points, and that puts them ahead of Team Brady that are on 89 points. So those 2 victories back-to-back have been absolutely major for them. And we've got a chance now to catch up with one of the pilots, Sarah Price, and looking forward to having a little chat, because this of course is proving to be a very, very important 2026 season in E1. As there we are, Sarah, great to have you with you. It's Ben Edwards, commentator here. Sarah, this really is wonderful to see how Team Westbrook has been putting it together.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I'm so stoked. Taylor had to leave, so I'm filling in for her. I'm your commentator for I don't know how much longer, but hopefully I can keep you guys entertained. We are now in the paddock. As you see, this is Team Westbrook right here to our left. Lucas just took off. He is about to actually get in for his run. I just got out of the boat, and the conditions are very rough out there, so it's kind of interesting. All of our times have now gone a lot slower. So we're kind of seeing what everyone's going to kind of pull out of the bag here.
It's with me. You need to have a chat.
Yeah, Sarah, looking pretty good out there today. I've got a question for you. Coming from off-road, can you explain to the audiences at home a little bit about how all the information and data you're getting here with the Racebird differs from what you're getting in your off-road race cars?
Yeah, so here we obviously, hi Anna, by the way. Anna is a neighbor of mine back in Lake Havasu. The data here that we collect is so important because obviously we're in electric, race birds, and the conditions are always varying. And then also there's so many settings, obviously, as you know, Anna. But I think here today, when it gets rough, the off-road side of my experience really comes into play because you get to feel it a lot more, and that's so key here because, as you know, when you're trying to anticipate the roughness, you're trying to anticipate when it's going to fall off the foils. It's a little bit late before you can do anything about it. So let's say if you were to trim or do anything to try to alter it from falling off the foils, it doesn't necessarily happen until it's already happened. So anticipation is everything, and I think feeling it, trying to get ahead of it from the off-road side really helps, I think, because it's kind of, we don't drive off the numbers as much, we drive off the feel, and I think that's key on days like today and obviously like in Dubrovnik.
So we were talking to Sam Coleman earlier, and he was saying that the start straight was the roughest part of the track. Wanted to see if you echo that or if you think there's another part of the track that's going to be tricky.
I would not agree. I think the start straight is probably a second difficult part of the track, but the back straight coming into the last corner I think is the toughest one right now, where you have the yellow buoy. The start straight, though, it's very hard to stay on the foils right before the finish line. It's almost guaranteed it's trying to fall off, and so that's a really big bummer when you're in the Racebird. You're trying to have a solid run to get your first few seconds and just make it a good start to your lap, and then all of a sudden it's just very hard to keep it on the foils before the start line. So that's really frustrating. But then when you go to the back side of the track, it's very hard to keep it on the foils. So on the first start straight, you can kind of keep it pretty, kosher, but then at the end, it's just the wild, wild west, and you just have to kind of go with it. And I think everyone's starting to go more to the conservative side to try to keep the Racebird just on plane.
Little Wild West Will Smith moment. I like that. Talking again about the data and the information that you're getting as a driver, do you like having your engineer in your ear giving you information, or do you like to just drive and then get the download later?
I'm a very simple driver, I would have to say. Like, obviously, coming from the off-road side, we're a little bit behind on all that stuff, and so I've never actually, leaned on it too much because I've never had it as much. But now, there's key points that are very important for us to excel. And I think, us as a team for Westbrook Racing, we just work together so well. And it's funny because, Lucas comes from a different world where numbers are everything. And then for me, I'm more feel. And now we just work really well together. Like, everyone knows how I work. They know how Lucas works. And me and Lucas work just tremendously together. But the data is important to an extent, obviously knowing what settings you're running. But I think once you get to a certain point with the Racebird, it's you kind of intuition. And you just kind of have to know all these tools you have in your chest and when to use them.
All right, last question before we leave you alone. What is it like working with a co-pilot? How are you guys communicating as far as, you just had a really fast lap. What information are you bringing back to Lucas?
I think it's just what kind of mindset you need to go into the next session. I was just out there and I tackled it like I did yesterday. And obviously my first lap was tremendously horrible. So even Lucas was like, man, you looked bad on that first lap. I was like, I know. So you just have to kind of take it as the conditions are, and that's the one thing that, is comparable to my world in the off-road racing. It's never the same, and that's exactly the same thing on the water. It's never the same water. You sometimes get better water or you get rougher waters, and you got to adapt. And so adapting is key. And so, yeah, when I come in, I tell Lucas kind of like my points and how I felt and what I did to improve on that second lap, and hopefully I can help him improve this time, But Lucas has been on fire, so it's honestly, I feel like we have a great team dynamic right now, and our engineers have been killing it. And so it's just all these little things kind of come together to make this happen. But as you know in E1 is a lot of luck, and anything can absolutely happen.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah. We really appreciate your time. Now get out there and go keep an eye on Lucas for us.
Will do.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, great to have you with us. Very, very good. So we will see how this all goes in the next run. So we will then see the combination of both pilots putting times together to try and get into the top 8. Because if you don't get into the top 8 out of the 10 that compete, you will be not making it into Q2. And then we will lose another 2 to go into Q3. And the final 4 later on will be competing in Q4 when the points will be on offer for being fastest qualifier. So there you are, looking at Team Westbrook. It is Lucas Ordóñez, but that was really interesting to hear from Sarah about how it's all coming together.
This is really where a lot of the teams are going to kind of start holding their breath here, because we've seen kind of which pilots are fast. Now it's time to see which teams are fast. So when we start looking at the combination of male-female pilot and what their overall timings look like, we're going to be able to see who the distinct leader is coming into the Monaco race this weekend.
Absolutely right. Yeah, well, Lucas Ordóñez, there you are, right on board. The Spanish competitor in his early 40s now, and he sees himself as very perseverant, generous and sociable. That's how he puts it. Won the LMP2 World Championship back in 2011. He's had podiums at Le Mans in a very different form of competition, of course. Factory racer with BMW in cars and racing things like the Nürburgring 24-hour. But he's been very successful in E1. He started out in 2024 competing regularly. Won Lake Como in both 2024 and this year. And then, of course, they won at Dubrovnik last time out and took pole position, actually, the fastest qualifiers there too.
Lucas is one of the more interesting characters on the grid. He is so polite, so kind, mostly soft-spoken, but he is not to be messed with on the racetrack. He will not allow anyone to push him around, and sometimes I think we forget that because he's so nice all the time. But if you try and push him around on the racetrack, he will fight back.
Team Aoki also ready to come back out. Danny Kloss, who will be doing the run in this one. Another Spanish competitor in his late 30s now, but again has been competing very, very effectively and with success in the past as well, both at Jeddah over 2 years and Dubrovnik in the past and last year. But Jeddah was a great start for this team, and they are 4th in the points at the moment on 59. So we are just seeing the ticking away to this session getting underway, and it will be important to just establish a good time once again that will be combined with your other pilot and then try to make it into that top 8 for Q2. Let's see which of the teams is actually going to go for it. Yeah, it is Aoki that go first. Danny Kloss is going to see how he gets on with it.
I know they did very well at the opening of the season, and then the next few rounds were kind of damage control for them as they struggled with some issues, and yesterday they were saying they think they solved it. Sarah's lap looked great in the first session, so hoping to see something similar from Danny today. They kind of go back and forth between who's the faster of the two, so curious to see if Danny pulls out a faster lap. You can see there, like a lot of the pilots were saying, that start straight's very rough. Danny kind of came off the foil for a minute, but he did keep the momentum going, which is critical.
Yeah, and how he used the boost at that phase, he's obviously used it quite well initially going across the line.
It was interesting. It looked like he opted to use the boost to get the race bird foiling and then came back off the boost and saved it. So rather than holding that boost throughout that entire start straight, he held on to it. So my sneaking suspicion here is that he's using the boost through the corners to try and keep the race bird out of the water. You know, when the water is very rough, using the boost can actually sometimes make the boat even more disrupted. So they're definitely being selective with where they're using the boost, and he's definitely using it in little doses.
This is looking quite impressive to me at the moment, the way it's looking across the water right now. The sector times are pretty good, 22.9, 25.6. So not the ultimate, but it's looking quite controlled.
He really had a tight turn there. We haven't really seen that so far. It's been a lot of very wide sweeping corners trying to keep the speed up, and he really just stuck the wing in there and brought it around, but he still maintained the speed. So that's looking very good for his lap time. Look at that.
Yeah, 1:15.474. That is very impressive indeed. And not the fastest outright yet, because Team Monaco just got into the 1:14s, but as a combination for Aoki, that should put them in a very, very safe place going forward, shouldn't it?
Yeah, looking at Lucas right now, very interesting. He's very high up on the foils compared to where Sarah was earlier. You can actually see the rear foil as he's driving, which it means the boat's pretty high. But he looks a little unstable, but he's still maintaining the momentum. So I'm curious to see if the higher setting is going to help them out.
Absolutely. We did see that actually on her first run, that she was bouncing around a little bit more, I think. And sometimes it takes you you have to do a lap first to sort of try and feel where it's difficult.
It could be their strategy that they're trying to kind of push the settings to the limit on that first lap to see where they can get it and then back it down to where they're comfortable. Not a terrible lap from Lucas, though. He rose to the top of the board. So kind of like I was saying about Micah earlier, sometimes the boat looks like it's out of control, but a strong pilot that can adapt, keep things steady, and keep a cool head can pull a fast lap.
So, yeah, that's good news. And on our Q1 standings on screen, if you see the green coming up on the number of where they are in that standings, it means we're now looking at the combined version of their performance. So Aoki and Westbrook have now had both pilots set times, and they are comfortably up there in the top 8 at the moment. But we will see how that goes.
We're hearing from the paddock that Sierra has actually replaced their entire rear foil assembly. So the piece that's underneath the water that you can't see, that is pivotal in the handling of the Racebird, they've actually replaced that entire thing. It's massive. It helps lift the boat out of the water, and it sounds like they may have been having issues with it. So there's quite a lot that can happen with those that could maybe upset the handling of the Racebird. I know Katie was complaining when we spoke with her earlier that she thought maybe there was something wrong with the Racebird. So we'll see if Eric's time improves over Katie's from earlier, then maybe they really did have an issue with that rear foil. But that can cause a lot of pressure on the team when they have to make a fast switch like that. So we'll see what Eric pulls out when he gets out on the track.
Now, for Team Miami, this is pretty important because they're 7th overall at this stage, and it is important that Rihanna O'Meara Hunt does put together a couple of good laps. This is her first attempt.
She had a pretty rodeo moment there in that first corner. The boat slammed in there pretty hard, but she did manage to drive out of it, so we'll see how her time looks here.
So yes, let's see if this is it's not going to be that quick for Rihanna O'Meara Hunt. Let's just see as she comes across the line, and you can see, look, that has put her in the teams at risk, down in 9th place now that they're combined. Now this is still early stages because you've got plenty of other pilots still to do their runs for their teams, but that is a bit of a concern for Team Miami, there's no doubt about it.
It could be the conditions, it could be some setting issues. I don't think it was just that final corner. Unfortunately, we didn't see the full lap, so we'll see in the second lap what's going on. Maybe we can see if there's something up with them. But TBR is going right now, and we were looking to see if John Peters would be able to pull a faster lap time, and he did improve quite a bit over his counterpart, Michelle, so hopefully that can bring them up. They are not at risk anymore following that lap from Miami, so that might be a blessing for Team Blue Rising.
Indeed, and as you say, for Team Blue Rising, we often see John Peters delivering a very impressive flying lap, don't we?
He's this dark horse where, you know, things will be kind of quiet for their team, and then all of a sudden he pulls something crazy out of his hat. So he's still got another lap, but right now we're looking at Eric Stark. Like I mentioned earlier, we just heard that they replaced their entire rear foil assembly, so curious to see if that improves their lap time. They were definitely struggling earlier. Straight off the bat, though, Eric is having a not so great approach to the starting line there. He had a few offs in foil there, so that'll slow down his momentum, but he's looking a little better.
Interesting, because it's always difficult when the boat's changed a little bit. You're going out for your first lap. You've got to kind of learn it at the same time, but it is important for them because they're down in 8th place at the moment, so it is quite key that these changes that they've done do help them move up the order.
In my experience, their rear foil is really the most sensitive part of the Racebird. That foil is hanging down several feet below the boat. You can't usually see it when they're driving, but you can see it when they're on the crane. And that is hanging low enough to where if there's turbulence, if there's water conditions, that thing has a lot of leverage on the engine. And if it's loose, if it's cracked, if it has any kind of compromise whatsoever, it can really disturb the handling of the boat and slow you down tremendously. So we'll see if this is an improvement, but you know, if there was an issue with the foil and they replaced it with a new one and they continue to struggle, then they have another problem. I don't think that there would be that much adaptability issues if they just put on a new foil and everything's right again.
Absolutely right. It's a reasonable run he's doing. The second sector not quite as quick as some of the others. The first sector was good. Let's just see. It's going to be up there for Sierra. Let's just see where this puts them. Yeah, so across the line, and it is a 118.5. That still means Sierra are in 8th place, so it's not safe yet. Not safe yet.
I do believe it was faster than Katie Munnings earlier. We may have to check. You can see Eric's talking to his team right now, probably giving them some feedback on the handling. You know, Eric has an extensive background in powerboating, so you know, between the two of them, if someone were to identify an issue with the boat here, it's probably going to be Eric who's going to hopefully be able to guide them through this issue that they're having.
Yeah, and he'll get a second flying lap, so there is a good chance to move up.
Looking on screen right now, the man standing to the right in the black t-shirt, his name is Luciano. He was actually my race radio man in the past. Really incredible guy. He's part of Team Victory, which is a historic championship-winning powerboat racing team. So Sierra really has the foundation needed to sort through this problem that they're having. So hopefully they can figure it out before the finals.
And Team Aoki are looking very strong once again. Danny Kloss, second fastest in this group so far, third overall, combining so far with, of course, what Sara Mezia had done earlier on. Sara Mezia Vaz, as we know her now, she did a good job as well. So this is another opportunity. And when you get to this stage, as you know, you can really go for it because you're in pretty safe section. You can almost use this as more learning, even if it does go wrong for you, can't you?
It's really interesting because in the past we were doing a 3-lap qualifying where you had a little bit more opportunity to experiment, and now that we're looking at a 2-lap qualifying session, there's less room to play with the settings, and the second lap is really the lap where they're trying to push to the limit. So right now, most likely, Danny did that lap earlier, went back to the milling area, cooled off, spoke with his engineer, spoke with his team. They gave him feedback to hopefully improve his lap, and now he is fully sending it.
Okay, and tight in there as well, as you say. At the qual, they'll go for these slightly tighter lines, and Danny Kloss is just trying to see if they can get a bit more, but they are safe. They will be going through to the next stage of qualifying, and absolutely sure, and it's a reasonable time. Let's just see across the line, 1:18.05.
Sorry to distract with what's going on the track right now, but I actually just received some information from Team Sierra. The entire bottom fin of the rear foil was missing when Katie came in. So not exactly sure how that happened, but that would 100% affect the handling of that boat. So we may see an improvement from Team Sierra. Heartbreaking to see mechanical failures like that, but thankfully they were able to make the swap, so things should be looking up.
Let's keep an eye on John Peters because John is doing another good job for Team Blue Rising. The first sector was very good, second sector reasonable. This could be a reasonable lap. No? Let's have a look. Let's just see as he comes over the line. 1:16.3. So that's a good lap, no doubt about it. And I think that's now put Team Blue Rising very safely into the next stage of qualifying.
Like we mentioned earlier, John Peters is this kind of miracle man where he very quietly gets on the racetrack and causes problems for everybody else. So he's pulled a fast lap out of the bag here at the end. Now we're looking to see if Team Miami can pull themselves out of the risk session. Their first lap was not looking good. They're going to have to shave 3, maybe 4 seconds to really feel safe here. So let's see if they can figure that out.
For Rihanna Amira Hunt, this is a bit of a tough pressure because she's got to try and deliver. And she's less experienced than many, of course, because she's in her first season of competing in E1. She was with the Sierra team at Jeddah as a reserve and then competing now with Miami. And we will see how this goes. But the pressure is on to try and not be in that bottom 2.
Comparatively, they've been running the boat quite a bit lower than everyone else, nose a little bit higher in the air. So there may be some strategy there, but you can see she got the wing very wet there, which slows the boat down quite a bit. And then we have some bounce here that's really going to slow the boat down. You can see she's riding very low, and the belly of the boat is dragging through the face of the waves, which is really going to slow the boat down. I'm not sure. It could be a settings issue as we deal with the rough water here, or it could just be navigating these waves.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is coming. No, it's not coming together well. I can just see the second sector is not very quick, I'm afraid. As you say, the way the boat's working, it's very difficult to get the pace together. I think that there is a danger they're not going to be getting through to the next stage of qualifying. Of course, we've still got another group to come, but this is not looking great for Team Miami.
Running a similar line to Timmy, Timmy's time was not terrible, so I think at the end of the day this may just be driver settings and intuition. Unfortunately, she's looking quite a bit slower than Timmy, so hopefully not an issue with the boat and something that they can improve on later.
Absolutely, and she's still learning. She is a rookie in the series, so first time she's competed here at Monaco, despite this being the third year that E1 has competed. So some of the some of the competitors know it very well, and you've got to get used to the bumpiness of this. It's not quite as smooth as you might expect it to be.
We've definitely seen a lot of our pilots with car racing backgrounds kind of have a slower kind of time getting to grips with water changing all the time. I know with road racing, there's rain and there's wind and there's other elements, but the pavement relatively stays the same, whereas the water changes all the time. You may see it one lap and then the next lap it's completely different. So, it takes intuition, it takes adaptability, and they grow with it, but you can't get that other than with seat time.
Good point. Well, let's see what Team Westbrook can do now. Lucas Ordóñez did a really good lap earlier on, and let's see whether Lucas can go even faster this time. This team that is having a wonderful season so far, can they really get 3 wins in a row in E1 this weekend? We'll find out.
It does look like they've changed their boost strategy in this session. Earlier, Sarah was not on the boost quite as long on the start straight there, and Lucas is using a lot of that boost. As he entered the first turn, he had about half of his boost left, which Sarah didn't quite use that much. So curious to see where else he's applying the boost and if Sarah makes that adaptation later as well. He's about to run out of the boost, but it looks like he's kind of lowering his dosage here as he comes into the rough waves.
Absolutely. Let's just see if this is going to be quite as successful as the previous one, but they're in a very safe place for heading through to the next stage of qualifying already. And he's just trying to make that hole up and down just a little bit too much, maybe.
There's a few spots on this racetrack that I think are very choppy because the waves are bouncing off different parts of the shoreline, and you can tell there's 1 or 2 spots where we keep seeing all the race birds come up out of the water, and that's not specific to any team or any pilot. So I think all the teams are struggling in a few different spots, and how they manage that is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be quite as good a lap as he had done last time. No, you can see, look, coming across the line, and for him, that's over 120. So it doesn't matter because he's already done the good lap earlier, and in a way, that second lap you can play with it a bit more, but that was too much bouncing, and that gives us a good, you've told us many times, but that's what we're kind of looking for, is that smoothness. If you get the smoothness with the speed, then it makes a big difference.
Looking at Sierra right now, like I said earlier, that yellow smart mark is kind of where the waves are shifting direction, and as Eric Stark came into them, he lost the stability on the foil several times, and that really slowed him down. So at this point, now that they have the brand new foil, I would imagine that what we're dealing with is trying to sort out the settings. Eric is typically very aggressive on his settings, so that may or may not lend well to the conditions here today, but it's looking like a vast improvement compared to where they were earlier in the day, so hopefully things are looking up. But yeah, he's just really off the foils there.
They are still at risk, though, and he stays in 8th place overall because, of course, Rafa were definitely struggling, and I think it will be hard for Rafa to come through when we see them in the next group. But being 8th at this point is still a risk until you see everybody else do their time. So it's not quite coming together for Sierra as well as they would like, but they have still got a chance.
I think Team Sierra is probably going to be holding their breath until after Tom Schiap drives later. Tom Schiap is always a threat whenever he gets in the race bird. He's one of the fastest pilots, multiple-time fastest lap winner, multiple-time fastest qualifier. So even if they're having a hard time with that boat, there's still a danger of Tom Schiap laying a fast enough time to knock some of those other teams down to the at-risk level. So curious to see what happens.
Absolutely. So a really good opportunity for many there. For John Peters, did a good job to get Team Blue Rising climbing up into a decent position. And we shall see then how the rest of the qualifying goes. But remember, we've got another group coming out to absolutely determine our top 10. And therefore, whoever finishes 9th and 10th will not be going into Q2, Q3 and Q4 when there are then some points on offer.
Hi Eric, it's Anna and TV. I know you guys, it sounds like the foil had an issue earlier. How are things looking now?
Hey Anna, hope all is good. Yeah, the foil broke for Katie, so we just in last second got the new foil in, and yeah, it was. It feels a little bit different in the boat, so it's very difficult out there. There's a lot of waves coming in, so I just hope we are through to the next one.
All right, good luck out there. Hopefully that new foil helps you guys out. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, let's hope they have managed to get it all sorted out. Good news. And for Team Monaco, they are in a a good spot at this stage as well, as we're getting prepared for the second group to come back out, of course, and then we will absolutely determine the order in the top 10, and the top 8 will be going through to the next stage. And then after we get into that next stage, into Q2, it will be one pilot who does Q2, and then we will move on to Q3, but the two slowest in Q2 will then not make it to Q3, and they'll just simply swap pilots from Q2 to Q3 and then swap back again into the final part of qualifying, Q4, when, as I mentioned, we get 3 points for the fastest qualifier, 2 points for second fastest, and 1 point for third fastest. Teams are working hard here, aren't they? Everybody just trying to work everything out.
Those guys, you know, they don't get enough credit. You know, a good pilot really requires a good team. And when there's issues within the team, you can always tell on the racetrack. And my hat's off to the engineers that are really supporting their pilots.
Let's go down to Sarah Price.
Hey guys, so we are here at the launch zone. As you see, Lucas is coming in. It was a really rough session, but Aoki threw down a really good lap, and so did Lucas. The other 2 laps of their session wasn't very good, so that just goes to show how much the inconsistencies are here right now just because of the rough water. But we're going to talk to Lucas. We're going to see how it went. It's a toss-up right now. We have another group about to go out, so we're going to see where we all stack up. And this is where it shows that having equal drivers from the male and the female side, if you can have, oh no, Javi! Don't mind Javi. He's okay. Hey, I need you. Come over here. But this was what, you know, our strength is that we're pretty decently close in pace, and I think that's what makes a team really strong here at E1, is when you can keep your drivers or pilots very close in their timings. But Lucas, you threw down an awesome lap. I'm so pumped. How was it?
Was pretty rough. Remembers me to the finals in Dubrovnik. So yeah, back to very rough conditions, very tricky to handle, very tricky to keep on a good balance through the lap. And then in the second run, the conditions were even worse. So it's going to be challenging the next few qualifying sessions.
For sure. And something that we're always paying attention to, but we really can't do much about most of the time, is the traffic coming in and out of this marina. So there's big yachts, there's jet skis. Like, there was some guy racing me on a jet ski right next to me, just making a wash the whole entire time after I already went. So, you know, there's things like that constantly happening. And did you have anyone racing you on jet skis out there?
Not really, but massive jets coming through. So we had to be consistently on the radio, checking what boats were coming, if they were coming fast or not, to make that massive wake. But so good so far.
So what tips do you have for me now?
I'm not gonna tell you live. We have work to do, and our competitors are watching. So I'll tell you later.
Everything's a secret here in E1. So we're all trying to just get the little snitching on, and we'll try to see who's saying what they're doing. That's just how it is in E1. We're trying to keep that little edge.
Well, we will be watching it very closely to see how it all goes, but thank you so much for letting us know and for having the interview. That's great within the team. So let's have a look at the results then. For Westbrook, they are P1. Aoki next up, third for Blue Rising, fourth for Sierra, and fifth for Miami. So whether Miami are going to be able to make it through to the next stage, we will find out after the next group of qualifying. So we are looking forward to the final part of Q1, as we are calling it, before we move into Q2, Q3, Q4, when ultimately the points will be handed out for the fastest qualifiers. The key stage that we are looking forward to now, this final part of Q1, is definitely who are going to be in the top 8 at the end that do go through to the next stage. The bottom 2, 9th and 10th won't. And the conditions in the water here are not very easy to cope with, are they, Anna? Because it is proving to be very bouncy indeed.
This is easily one of the roughest tracks that the pilots are going to deal with this season, primarily due to the boat traffic, but also due to the fact they were positioned very close to the shore. That creates a lot more turbulence as those waves kind of bounce off the shoreline, which we've seen them struggle with this front straight right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally understandable. Some great images, some great shots up on the foils. And the foil, the underwater wing effectively, but that top surface creating low pressure area on the foil, and it's a lovely mix. Let's go and join Sarah Price once again to catch up with another of the pilots.
All right, guys, I am in the paddock. I have Ubben with Team Monaco. We are in their home country, and we have Eric with Sierra Racing. Ubben, you threw down a really fast lap, and you guys have been fast, but you have not had the results, and so this might just be a good race where I hope you come in second.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. No, it's our home race. We're really excited. We've done some good times today, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow's more important, but good start to the weekend. Everyone's tough out there. The conditions are tough, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I really am cheering for Team Monaco. They've been, they're new to the series, and then this year they've been coming up with a lot of pace, but they just haven't had the good luck on their side. And as you know about luck, Eric, you guys are always fast at times too, but I feel like you never have the luck on your side.
No, I mean, now first session, Katie broke the back foil, and you know it's always something. Last race we have an electric issue, and so I mean maybe we had our bad luck now, and for tomorrow we have some good luck.
There you go. Eric's been in the series from the very beginning, and so has Ubben, and it's been so much fun racing alongside them. And as you can tell, like the vibes in the paddock, like we're all friends. We all have a good time while we're racing and after, and so it makes it a lot of fun. But we obviously always want to beat each other as well. So it makes
even more when you're friends.
Yeah, even more when you're friends. I always have to tell Lucas, I'm like, no friends on the track, okay? No friends. But no, what do you? So what do you feel about Westbrook being in the lead right now? How's your true feeling on this?
To be honest, I love it.
Yeah.
If it's not me, it's you.
I appreciate that.
I like it. I like to see someone else at the top, and you guys have raced really well this year, and it's not like you've just had it handed to you, so I think it's fair enough that you're there.
That's really sweet of them. You know, like it's tough. It's tough to sometimes be at the top, and sometimes you don't want to be the bad people at the top, right? Like you want to be a fierce competitor. You want to have respect for each other, and I think that's key. But you know, I really have to say, if you guys are at the top as well, I'd have so much respect and just really be excited for you guys because I think they deserve it. I think everyone here gets tossed these cards that you have to deal with them as they come, and you never know what's going to happen. But here we have Sierra Racing Club. We're trying not to look at their propeller or touch their foils.
Touch my one now.
Yeah, so what propeller are you on?
I don't know.
Oh, you sure?
Yeah.
What about you? Don't know either.
Yeah. Weird, they don't know their propeller sizes.
It's a different ones.
Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah, you got to choose precisely on that one. Okay. But no, good luck, guys. I'm so excited. I hope that we can all be in the final together, and thank you.
And thank you, Sarah. Good to have you. Yeah, propellers, of course, they have to organise for each qualifying day and for each race day. So we are here at Monaco, looking forward to the final part of Q1 as we are getting ready for the final run of 5. We've got Team Rafa with Tom Schaap, and we've got Drogba with Tara Pacheco, Team Brady with Emma Kimmelainen, who is always very impressive in the qualifying, Alula with Nerea Marti, and Monaco with Max Noche. And for Team Rafa in particularly, for Tom Schaap, it really is a crucial time. The team owner, Rafa Nadal, will be keeping an eye on this because they need to get a good performance to see if they can make it into the second part of qualifying.
I know every pilot wants to win, but we have 3 pilots here that are probably looking for some redemption. First and foremost, Tom Schiap. Not only is their entire team looking for redemption, but it was here last year when Tom had his big crash that was so dramatic and really reset that entire team. So I'm sure Tom is looking for some redemption. We have Tara Pacheco, who has been struggling on and off this season, that I'm sure is hoping to do a better job of supporting her team at this particular round. And then we also have Max Nocher, Team Monaco. They're looking to win because this is the home race. There's some added pressure there. I don't know necessarily that they need redemption because they've been building and building and building all season, but this is the moment where all that momentum could really pay off in a really big way.
Well, Open Duncan was very rapid earlier with Team Monaco, of course, so now we're going to be able to see how it goes as a combination, as Max Nocher will be taking it out this time.
I'm sure that they went back to the paddock, had a meeting, looked at everything that Oben did right, evaluated what she may have done wrong, and are hoping that Max can take both of those things and make the perfect lap. And so the communication, the data, and the luck all have to come together right now for Max.
He's less experienced, of course, than Oben, isn't he? Because he's in his first full season.
You know, he may be less experienced, but he does have watercraft background,
yes, he
water
does.
racing
Yes.
background, water sport background, and that makes a huge difference. So he's not coming into this completely blind.
Quite.
He has the intuition that you can't teach. And then when the teaching is concerned, he has a very experienced co-pilot in Oben Duncan, who has been very successful in previous seasons. So when you look at it, the foundation is there. Max has the most critical element, which is the water experience that you simply cannot teach.
Absolutely. So that's going to be something really interesting to see how they can get on with it. But Team Rafa, it is a tough one to see whether they can do. You can look at the orders, the teams at risk, and Team Rafa down in 10th place at the moment. But as you can see, you need the greens on that, which means that you've had then both pilots combining to set the times, and you will see, I think, Monaco pop right back up to the top of those standings once they're up there, because I think both of the pilots can be very, very competitive. So we're underway with this final part of Q1, which will determine which 8 will head into Q2 coming up a little bit later on.
We could see a big shakeup potentially. You know, if some of these teams that are on the lower end of the bracket have flying laps now, we could see them leapfrog some of the other teams that are in the lower position. So I'm really excited to see if any of these pilots pull some really fast laps out. It's also up to the conditions as well. We've seen in the past where throughout the qualifying day, conditions have improved and we've seen faster laps. So it could go either way. If the conditions have gotten worse, we could see even slower laps and see the team struggle. Or if it's gotten smoother, then we could see much faster flying laps. So we'll be able to tell hopefully in the first lap here what we're looking at conditions wise.
It's a very good point. Yes, you can never actually predict it, but these teams are impressive. Team Brady just holding back at the moment before Emma Kymäläinen is setting off, but she is so rapid in E1. She was a competitor in single-seater racing in Formula Fords originally in her career, in fact a champion in Finland, and then went into W Series and was a winner in W Series racing, and then becoming very successful in E1 in these last couple of years. But they're all pausing a little bit, aren't they?
They're fortunate. There's been a bit of a delay to allow some of these boats to go by, so that saves them the clean water. They don't have to go out as a big boat's going by, and now that that boat's out of the way, Brady is going for it.
Yeah, they've been given the signal they can kind of get going now. So here we are. Let's see how Emma Kymäläinen does this. She has competed in 15 events over the years. They've had 5 wins, 10 podiums. They really have been very successful, and bear in mind they are second in the championship, pretty close still to the Westbrook team, so they are very much contending in this year's series.
Emma had a pretty good drive over the starting line there. You can see it's very rough, but she's still maintaining the momentum. She actually approached the starting line on the boost to try and get a running start at it, and then came back off as she got into the rough water. You know, when the boat is really disturbed and up in the air, the boost is not doing you any favors, so it's better to get back off the boost and preserve it for later. She's having a pretty good run through this corner as well, keeping the nose up, not too much drag, but this has been the really tricky part of the track here. So she shifted directions, the waves are coming at her now, and you can see it upsetting the boat. And then as she comes around this smart mark here, she's headed into the back side of the waves, and there it is. The boat gets a little bit disturbed there as well. So that could really contribute to a slower lap time, but she's got some momentum here. She could still make it work.
Absolutely, yeah, 23.0 into that first sector, and using the boost, as you say, quite clever, down some of the straights, but also she's just tweaking a little bit of boost through some of the corners as well, isn't she?
In these particular conditions, the boost doesn't really lend well to the straight line. So when you get on the boost, that sudden kind of surge forward can sometimes upset the boat. So if the water's rough and you double down by activating the boost, sometimes that can upset the boat even more. If the boat's out of the water and you apply the boost, it doesn't really help you any. So using it in the corners is really the best place to do it on a track like this.
Not particularly quick, but maybe that's, as you said, the conditions. We'll find out more. Interesting, she took a very wide line to the finish line, actually. She tried to take it out wider.
A lot of times they're doing that to try and keep the momentum up. You would think that the shortest route would be the fastest, but they get a little bit more momentum when they swing wide instead of slowing down on a tighter corner there. So a lot of times we call that the slingshot, and that slingshot exit can usually help you go a little bit faster, but I think that those offs on the foil really slowed her down.
Team Drogba here, you've Tara Pacheco's doing a reasonable job at this stage, and for Nerea Marti for Team Alula. Yeah, the sectors are proving to be a little bit difficult because Drogba's just finished that lap at a 122.5. I think you're right that it might be more difficult. We've gone a bit deeper and it looks as though the times are a bit slower now.
I do think, though, as these are their first laps here on the track since the conditions have shifted, they may get a little bit faster. So I'm hoping so for the sake of these teams, so we'll see. But yeah, not looking good for Drogba there. She was pretty far off the pace of her co-pilot, but there's still time. They still have another lap to go.
Okay, well, we're on board with Nerea Marti, Nerea Marti, and sorry, yeah, Nerea Marti is doing her job. Let's just see whether she can make it work for her at this stage.
You can see she also kind of went for a bit of a slingshot here. She came out of that corner and stayed to the right. Not quite as dramatically as Emma did. Still looking a little bit slower than some of the times that we saw earlier, but that may just be a matter of some of the water conditions. It looked like the boats were getting pretty upset on the front stretch, and when that happens, you know, that can be 1, 2, 3 seconds worth of time lost, especially if you slam off the foil 2 or 3 times.
I mean, Nerea Marti's had a really good first full year in E1 because they've had those 2 podium overalls and 4th place in Lake Como. So, but I think you're absolutely right. I think the conditions right now are proving to be tougher, and this is going to be even harder, therefore, for Team Rafa. I mean, for Team Monaco, they're in a pretty safe place in the overall because of the position they were in earlier on, and they are a good combination anyway. But I do feel for Team Rafa, when Tom Schaap comes out, I'm not sure whether he's going to be able to do much.
I would argue, though, that Tom Schaap's pretty extensive powerboat racing background may help, and we saw in Dubrovnik in even worse conditions than these, Tom was able to pull the team into the finals. So we'll have to see when he runs. I think that there's still a shot, and there's always an opportunity for another team to do worse.
So Max Nochet, who has taken over from Owen Duncan for Team Monaco. His first year, the Team Monaco competing in E1, and here they are at Monaco. They will be getting a lot of support this weekend, there's no doubt. Yes, it puts pressure on you too, but sometimes, I mean, it's a bit like seeing Lewis Hamilton at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. He always goes even better at his home event, so let's see whether Team Monaco can do that kind of thing here.
Yeah, the locals in Monaco really treat these pilots like celebrities. I know when I was there, I felt so welcomed by the community, and I'm sure they're even more excited to see some Monaco locals and have a Monaco local team to cheer for. So I'm sure the crowds are going to be big this weekend. I'm curious how Max is handling the pressure here. Not only is it his first season, it's his first home race. He's looking okay right now. He still has another lap later. The start straight was a little bit rough for him, but how he handles this last corner is going to be really critical.
Yeah, and I think this area is proving to be definitely tougher than it was earlier on. He's doing, as you say, he's doing a reasonable lap, but I don't think we're not getting down into those 116s, 115s that we were seeing earlier from any of these yet.
I think that the biggest change has been there's very big rolling waves on the 2 big straight lines. So where some of the other pilots earlier were getting very good solid runs through the straights, right now I have not seen a good solid run through the straight right now. They're definitely falling off the foil a lot more.
It's interesting because Monaco just set the pace in this particular session, but it's 120.1, and we haven't seen times that slow for a while. So it just does definitely confirm that it's more difficult out there right now.
It does look like Tom has a pretty good drive on the straight line right now, so I'm not sure if he's going as fast as some of the other pilots, but as far as falling off the foil, he's a lot more stable, so that could lend well to a good lap time. He's looking pretty good right now.
reasonable, but that middle sector is not great. So he's going to be in the, I think he's going to be in the 20s again, because that's just the state. He won't be so far off what the others, but down in that bottom sector, yeah, as you can see, there's no improvement. Unfortunately, he hasn't really been able to. He set the 4th fastest to the 5 in this group. They're all actually very close on 20s, 21s, 22s. They're all struggling compared to what it was earlier with the other pilots.
I would say, based on the range of times that we're looking at here, like you're saying, Ben, they're all very close together, which leads me to believe this is not a pilot problem, this is a conditions problem. So more than likely, the conditions have gotten worse, they've gotten rougher as the time's gone on. I imagine we have a lot more leisure boats kind of coming in and out of the marina here, and that's really churning up these waves and making it a lot more difficult for these racebird pilots to navigate the track. I mean, look at that right there. I would not want to be driving through the rolling wake that thing is laying out. So I can feel for these pilots right now, it's definitely probably a struggle.
Yeah, this is really interesting in that this has put Alula down into that bottom 2 as well, and even Team Brady, because they're in this group and it is a slower session now. It's a bit ironic to see them down in 8th position, because they've been showing some pretty good pace, but it's just the disadvantage. You can never tell. You can never tell if the circuit's going to become quicker or slower, and especially we do have a lot of machines going in and out, and that does affect things a bit.
This is the beauty of water sport. You know, in the morning, the water can be very flat and we can be very fast. And if you get stuck in the later session when there's lots of leisure boats driving around, or the wind picks up, or whatever it may be, it could completely skew your day. Your settings could change and you have to adapt and change things on the fly. So I'm hoping to see a lot of these pilots adjust their settings, talk to their teams right now as they're in the milling area, and we'll see some faster lap times. But there's also the chance that the conditions are just too rough to navigate in the small amount of time that they have. They may not have enough time and enough laps to adapt, but we'll see.
Will be a bit of pressure on Nerea Marti here, there's no doubt, because she's down in 9th place for Alula. They're last in this particular group, 5th. They are the slowest in this group so far, and that puts them in 9th place overall. And just bear in mind, top 8 will be going through. The teams at risk at the moment, Alula and Team Ruffalo. Right, this is it then. So we will find out, can Alula get themselves into that top 8 and into the next stage?
It's interesting, she's starting with what looks to be not very much boost. I'm not sure if they have a boost issue or if that's just an issue with our display here. But she's on the start stretch right now. She has pretty good momentum. No, her boost is all good. She just applied it. So we'll see how she's looking here. You can see the boat falling off the foils, slowing down pretty dramatically, and that is those rollers that I was talking about. You know, just coming in from outside and then also rolling off of those boats. So you can see she's having a little bit of trouble here. The boat looks like it's lost momentum from that.
All right, well, let's see how this goes. She keeps it a little wider there than some.
I will say, out of all the teams that I've seen today, that Alula's corners look excellent. So they're keeping the boat up. They're still cornering quite hard despite the fact that it's rough out. So they're maintaining some good corner speed, which is very difficult.
Still not a great first sector, though, I have to tell you. 25.9 seconds in that first sector. It's not hugely different to what others are doing, but it's not quick enough to get into that top 8 yet. But sector 2, that's better than some, not by much, so there is still a chance.
You could tell she was kind of dragging the belly of the boat a little bit at that kind of midway smart mark, and then as she lifted the boat up, it really seemed like she gained a lot of momentum there. So I think more than anything, it's just adapting those settings with these conditions that we're dealing with here. And like I said, those 2 very long straightaways seem to be the most difficult part, but she's cleaned it up pretty substantially.
Yeah,
it's looking a lot better.
It's better, but is it enough? Oh, yes, it is. Look, she's got up into 6th place overall now, and that has put Team Brady down. So Emma Kimmerleinen, who will be coming out in a moment, she's going to have to go for it. Let's see how this all works out. This is going to be fascinating to see who does make it through. That was a good effort, I have to say.
A lot of it can just be timing. You know, if Nerea took off when the waves were a little bit smoother and maybe Emma takes off later when it's rougher, you know, it could all come down to the water conditions. It may not even have anything to do with the pilots. And that is what makes this style of racing so much more interesting.
So Team Monaco with Max Noschek, he's gone fairly middle across the start line. I'm quite intrigued that some people are going middle, some inside at the start, and then right out to the outside on the exit. They're all trying to determine exactly where they can get that little bit more floating at a decent speed.
His drive on the start stretch was much better this time around. Last time he was kind of dipping between the waves, a little bit more unstable, but this time around he was very smooth, so that should hopefully help. You can see his sector 1 was a lot faster.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So that should help substantially substantially. And then this is the tricky part here. Navigating this section as you approach that yellow smart mark and shifting directions into the front of the waves. If he can maintain a smooth ride level here, it should really help, and he did. He's looking a lot better than he did earlier.
Yeah, you're right. I think this is a clever move by Max Noche. That good first stint sector, that was very, very impressive. Second sector is pretty similar to the quick ones that everyone else has done. It's not much quicker, but it's in the game. So now let's just see, final sector.
Bad luck for Max, though. It looks like Drogba took off just as he's finishing his lap, and so he may get into a little bit of turbulence, but if he stays just outside, hopefully he'll be okay. But I'm sure their team is not excited about running into the back of these waves.
Yeah, that always makes it a bit challenging, doesn't it? Across the line, 118.2. That is the fastest of this session. Now, this is absolutely crucial for Tom Schaap, because Tom Schaap, Rafa, down in 10th place. He needs a mega lap, really, now to try and get through to the next stage of qualifying.
It's not looking so good. You know, he's right at the 1 minute mark, and he's still not quite to this last corner yet. So unless he has a completely banger of a turn here, I don't think we're going to see that from him. The look on his face tells me he's not feeling it, so I think they may still be struggling with the boat. The stability of the boat looks really good, but they lack the speed, unfortunately.
I think you're right. I don't think this is going to be enough for Team Rafa to go through to the next part of qualifying. Let's just see as, yeah, it's a 1:24.0. I'm afraid that's a pretty slow time. Team Rafa are out of qualifying for the rest of today. They will no doubt be doing lots of work. And we've seen it before where people haven't qualified well, come back on race day. But Rafa have been struggling a bit in recent times at other events. Now, let's see what else is going on. Tara Pacheco is now out for Drogba. And for Drogba, they're currently 7th overall. The other one is Emma Kymäläinen, and that's the one we really need to keep an eye on, because Team Brady are down at the bottom at the moment.
Not a terrible lap from Pacheco. She managed to push them up into 5th, so definitely a lot more consistent from her, especially considering the gnarly water conditions. But right now, personally, I think all eyes are on Team Brady, because they are at risk right now, and that's very rare, and they're also almost at the top of the leaderboard. So if they struggle now, that could set, put things off on the wrong start for them this weekend. Oh, big one for Emma. It looked like she got into those rolling waves and just got the wing a little bit too wet, but she did drive out of it, but it's not looking good for Emma Kymäläinen right now.
Oh, this is looking tough, and it does look as though it may be, amazingly, Team Brady that are not going to get through to the next stage of qualifying.
It's definitely looking very unstable for them. It's hard to say if that's a boat issue or if it's just the nature of the waves on this particular lap, but I'm just going to say it now. I don't think it's going to happen for Team Brady right now.
And it's so unusual because Team Brady are always so competitive, but sometimes there's luck involved and being out on the water at the right time or when it's just smooth enough. Let's just see what time she gets over the line. It's a 1:20.7. Oh, she's just got up to 8th. Wow.
By the skin of their teeth. That was pretty incredible. She managed to make that work. She knocked Team Miami down just barely, and I think that was just a matter of her drive, because that lap was not good, and she just kept pushing.
That was amazing. As you say, she's got through by less than 0.3 of a second from what Miami had done earlier. And Miami, of course, had been out earlier when the track wasn't quite so difficult to cope with. That, as ever, Team Brady, very, very impressive. And they may still be in the battle, having got into that next stage. Everybody's got the same conditions to deal with. This was a bit more difficult because they had more difficult conditions in this final session. But well done to Team Brady and to Emma Kymäläinen, who is always one of the star qualifiers here.
Every little bit counts. You definitely can't count Emma Kymäläinen out. She's definitely a fighter, but looking at the kind of external view of the track earlier, I think there was more leisure boat traffic during those last 2 laps than any other laps that we've seen today. So my hunch is that it was just a matter of the conditions. It was the luck of the draw. You can see right here.
How rough that is there.
Emma Kymäläinen's having a hard time steering it home. It's so rough. Those waves look to be pretty tall. They're coming from all kinds of different directions, and that can make things very difficult to navigate on the racetrack. So I imagine those last couple laps were pretty tough on those pilots, and it was just the unfortunate luck of the draw for them.
It was, absolutely. But we now know where everybody is going to be going and who's not making it through. And I'm afraid that Team Miami and Team Rafa will not be coming through to the next stage of qualifying. We've still got 3 levels of qualifying to go through. And in each stage now, it'll be 1 pilot in each qualifying session. It's Q2, Q3, Q4. They'll be swapping into each one. And it'll be the faster ones that go through, but the slow 2 in each session in Q2 and Q3 will not make it through. So, interesting times.
Hi Emma, it's Jet Girl here on TV. Really quick, you had a big one near the shoreline there. Can you walk me through what happened on that little rodeo ride?
I'm not quite sure I heard what you said, but yeah, it was very tricky conditions throughout the whole session. Yeah, crazy chop, swell. It's just funny when kind of like you see that it's fine, and then suddenly the water just disappears under you because the swell just kind of takes you know, the water away, and then you hit the next one. So yeah, very, very tricky conditions. Quite tricky to actually get any grip, to get thrust, to get the boat moving. So yeah, plenty of stuff for us to learn from the data. We just barely missed we barely got into the next round. So yeah, we gotta learn quick, and then hopefully we go on board from there.
Well, it looked like you made it work, so good job, and hopefully it improves later. Thank you, Emma.
Yeah, that was impressive that she just managed to get them through into the next stage. Let's confirm the results then from Q1 here at Monaco. And basically you can see the separate sessions from Q1 sessions 1 and A, 2B, 3A and 4B, but it's the result on the right that we're looking at. Aoki have set the overall pace. Westbrook second fastest in the end from Monaco. A great job for Team Monaco. Blue Rising have made it through. Drogba in 5th place, that's good effort. Sierra have done it too. Alula and Brady just making it in the top 8, but the eliminated teams, unfortunately, we have lost Team Miami and Team Rafa. So that is what we have seen from that part of qualifying, and there is plenty more to look forward to.